Hi everyone, it's Jerry. In this video I'm going to show you the solution to this key position that could come about in a queen versus rook endgame. In addition to that, I'm going to show you a defensive resource that the defending side has. Now after I'm done showing you the solution to this key position, there are a couple of illusions I think you may end up experiencing. One is that I fully understand this type of an endgame, and two, that you fully understand this type of an endgame. I bring this up because there are a great number of key positions to not only be familiar with, but to of course know the solutions to, before you can fully understand this type of an endgame, one which has stumped the highest level of chess, the Grand Master level. Now, if you do think you fully understand this type of an endgame, I would suggest you try your luck against some fairly strong computer somewhere online where they can randomly generate this type of an endgame position and see how difficult it can really be for you to go ahead and win. A computer will certainly give you a very difficult time. So that said, again, I'm going to just focus on this key position in this video, but before I get to it, I want to focus on, quickly, a defensive resource to be aware of, okay? And working with this position, it's white to move. A bad move for white is one which involves any white king move. Okay, and so let's just run with it just to show what I'm referring to. The white queen is the one that should be making a move in this position, but let's just run with a very logical looking move. We need to get this king closer to the black king in order to make some progress, so it seems like moving the king is going to be a good choice. However, this is a defensive resource that is now available to the black side, giving check, and the king doesn't have very many options. In fact, going to the f-file would result in first a pin and then win of that white queen. And so the white king is essentially forced to just kind of zigzagging its way along the G and H files. So let's run with it. In each instance, the black rook is just giving check, keeping a close eye on these three possibilities. Okay, so G7, King H5, giving check again. The only exception of the rook is just keeping a close eye on any of these squares. However, as soon as the white king makes use of G6, that's where we would actually give check here on H6. King takes rook and we have stalemate. Okay, and there's no way to avoid it. This is just going to turn out to be a draw as soon as that king makes use of this G6 square. There's nothing else that white can be doing. And so look at this final position, and we have like a little bit of a triangle going on here. The black king caught on the edge, and the white king can actually be on this G6 square, and that would also be stalemate. This right here, be very familiar with it, this little triangle of pieces right here, because it can be reflected in many ways throughout a chessboard. Just looking at it, if we were to shift it over one to the left, we're working with this position. Again, it's stalemate. The white king can play here or be on that F6 square. Same thing going on, stalemate. Shift over one more, you get the idea. All instances of stalemate, certainly something to be avoiding if you're the side that's trying to win. So again, in this video, this is going to be the one key position of the many out there to be familiar with, okay? And so right now we're working with the situation where it's white to move. So what do we do from here? What is going to be the solution? What we want to do as white, our first task is going to be to obtain this same position, but have it be black to move. And the way we do that is to triangulate our queen. Okay, triangulation is often done with a king, where the king moves 3 times in a row and arrives back at a same position, but with the other side to move. Well, we can do just that with our queen, and that's done by first centralizing our queen. And keep in mind, these 4 center squares are going to be made use, we're going to make use of those 4 center squares in many instances throughout this key position right here. Okay, so we want to first make use of this center square, the one that's going to give check to our opponent's king. Queen to e4 does just that. And if king to h6, and we'll see this at many points in this type of an endgame, whenever the defending side's king lines itself up with our king, we can often just give mate right away. And this position right here is no exception. We could go to h4, we could go to h1, both of which give mate. So a little bit more resistance can be put up by way of king to h8, in which case we make use of a corner square. If the rook blocks, well, we just give mate on h1. So king down to that h7 square, followed by the queen back to where she started, that e8 square. And now we have an instance where it's black to move, and there aren't very many, well, there's actually exactly 14 choices that black would have from here. But just recapping what just happened here, we made use of this center square, we went to the corner square, and then we came back to where we started on e8. We did a little triangulation with our queen. Okay, so now it's black to move. There's 14 choices, one of which is for the black king. Let's eliminate that one right away. King to h6 can be met with first a pin and then win of the rook. You could really pick your favorite variation at this point. You could give check and go to g8, etc. Just keep in mind of little tricks like this with the rook giving check. Don't take with the queen, that's stalemate. Taking with the king is good enough. And so moving with the king, that's out. We're down to 13 possibilities for the rook, but we can do even better than that, eliminating 6 very quickly, because rook to this g8 square leads to mate. So that's one less. Okay, we have 13 possibilities with the rook. We could eliminate this 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6 because we could just be capturing it directly. Okay, so this one right here would lead to mate. All the other ones allows us to just capture that rook right away. So of the 13 possibilities, we've eliminated 6 from the rook. Okay, the queen is on e8. These guys right here, forget about them. We're down to essentially just these 7 right here. 1, 2, 3, 4 along this file right here where there were 7 choices. And of this file right here, we're just concerned with 1, 2, and 3. Okay, so we can actually limit this even further. Okay, we're just focusing on these 7 right here. However, keep in mind the color complex that the defending side's king is on. It's on a light square. And so if this black rook also plays to a light square, that's going to run into a direct fork. So let's focus first on these light squares. If the rook makes use of g4, we play queen to h5. That's a direct fork. And similarly, if the rook now makes use of g2 or b7, we play to e4, picking off the rook. Okay, so the light squares are out, and now we are down to just 4 possibilities, and let's see exactly what we would do in each case. Here's a quick tip. Once we've narrowed it down to these 4 possibilities where the rook is going to a color complex opposite that of the defending side's king, we're going to be making use of a center square where we give check to our opponent's king. Or in other words, no matter where this rook goes to, whether it's c7, a7, g3, or g1, we will be making use of e4 on our next move to give check and then go from there. So let's see the solutions in each of these last 4 cases. Rook to g3, we give check. If the king lines itself up, we give mate. King to g8, well, let's actually first cover king to h8. We just give a fork. So trying something different. King to g8, this is a key move right here. Queen to c4, still keeping a close eye on this possibility should the king play to either of these 2 squares. And really that's kind of what the king is having to do, because otherwise king f8, it lines itself up, we have mate. Okay, so either of these 2 runs into queen to h4. So we had 4 to be covering. That's one less. We have just these last 3. Let's look at this last one where the rook had 7 possibilities along that g file there. So what do we do now after rook g1? Well, once again, we centralize our queen, giving check. We know what happens if the king lines itself up with ours. So let's look at something else, such as king to h8. We give check. If the rook blocks, we give mate on h1. And so anything else, well, how about king to h7? Now we actually just land a fork. The rook is dead. So 2 down, that's the g3 and g1 square, and we have 2 more to go. So let's work first with rook to c7. What do? We centralize our queen with check. That has not changed. Okay, so line the king up, we give mate. Where else? If the king plays to, let's say, this g8 square, we give check on g2. And we want to keep in mind that we want to keep a close eye on this corner square. We want to be able to have that square available to us. If the king goes to f8, we can make use of that a8 square. And so the only other choices, h8 or h7, we give check at this point and either pick off the rook, or if the rook blocks, we give mate. We're down to just one possibility left for that rook, and it involves the rook going to this a7 square. Once again, we give check. If the king goes here, we know what to do. We give mate. If the king plays to here, and this is a very important point right now, we give check on this g4 square. And the reason for that is because we want to keep a close eye on getting our queen to one of these squares back here. We want to have that type of thing available to us. So that said, if we were to play to g2, you'll notice that if king to f8, we don't have the possibility. The king has lined itself up with ours, but we don't have the possibility of making use of that a8 square successfully. So the way to fix that is by playing first to g4. We have this square in mind in case king f8 comes into play. So now what we do at this point, once the king has to make use of either of these two squares, we just kind of zigzag our way down here until we can be giving check on this g1 square to pick off that rook. Okay, so this is maybe one of the more difficult ones to figure out. It's when that rook plays to this a7 square, where the rook had 6 possibilities, that furthest square away, in other words. So we just give check like so, and once again, we don't want to play here because we would not have this possibility available to us. Instead, we make use of g3. If the king plays here, we can make use of b8. The king has to go back to this h file. King h2, and now black is dead because we could finally make use of g1, forking that rook. Okay, so that's all for this video. As always, I hope you got something out of it. Take care. Bye.